One of Bob Dylan's great love songs is Shelter from the Storm, released on the album Blood on the Tracks in 1974. Now, we know that Dylan has more than dabbled in the ancient texts of tradition, and this idea of the shelter and the storm as the template for love's bloom, it suits an interpretation, a midrash, not only of his own canon, but also of deep streams of thinking about love and purpose that span thousands of years from many traditions. In Hebrew, a language based on three-letter roots that build a web of words with similar meanings, shelter comes from the root for mishkan. The letters shin, chaf, nun. Mishkan means tabernacle, the structure that served as the precursor to the temple for the ancient Israelites in the desert. And this word mishkan relates to shchuna, or neighborhood, a community. It's the closeness derived from proximity in the same space. And this root, the rootedness for the word for community or neighborhood, relates to the word Shekhinah. Now, this is not a Hebrew lesson, I promise, but let's circle back one more time. Shin, Chaf, Nun is the Hebrew root that relates to the word Mishkan, meaning tabernacle, Shchunah, meaning neighborhood or community, and Shekhinah, which is the traditional Jewish mystical way to refer to the female aspect of the divine. Now, we don't want to be too binary in our discussion of the metaphors or the imagination or the practice of Jewish mysticism, but it's important to keep in mind that this is a way of explaining how partnership and union happens. So in Jewish mystical terms, the Godhead is divided, just like we are, into a so-called female aspect, the Shekhinah, and the male aspect. And this union is how wholeness is created. It's a metaphor. But in the thinking about this song, when we imagine shelter and union and the storm that we protect ourselves from through love, Dylan sings, "If only I could turn back the clock to when God and her were born. If only my mishkan, my shelter, my fullest expression of the space of myself could house me with the Shekhinah, my ultimate partner, then that would be a time when time itself both stopped and began." Dylan sings this phrase as a if-only phrase. It's a kind of wish. He knows that none of us can quite access the clock of the divine, and neither that nor the clock of love. There's something beyond human time in this story. But the voice of love still is present in this song, and the mystical aspects of love are present in this song. And in the same way that the great Jewish mystical tradition explains the impossible act of falling in love, staying in love, and finding shelter from the storm of life, Dylan, in our own mysterious, midrashic way, accesses those same roots of the same story.